A sense of expectancy permeated the atmosphere backstage, the kind of expectation that causes your skin to tingle and your pulse to beat faster. John Foster, a young man from Macon, Georgia, who was 24 years old, was standing in the wings of the American Idol Season 23 stage as Disney Night was beginning to get underway. His choice of song, Almost There from Disney's The Princess and the Frog, turned out to be a reflection of his own life, which was filled with tenacity, dreams, and an unyielding determination to keep going. The judges, which included Carrie Underwood, Luke Bryan, and Lionel Richie, were seated behind the curtain, and their presence was felt across the room. This was John's opportunity to demonstrate that he was a part of the group. He made a gesture that was reminiscent of Tiana's New Orleans attitude by pulling at the sleeves of his thrifted navy blazer, which he wore with a white shirt and dark pants. At the moment that the stage manager gestured for him to proceed, his boots were tapping nervously on the floor. As he came into the limelight, the stage was illuminated with warm amber hues, and the collective clamor of the audience hit him like a wave. John took hold of the microphone, its weight reassuring and reassuringly familiar. He was drawn into the beat of the song by the jazzy and bright piano chords that began Almost There. These chords gleamed through the speakers as they were played. As John sang, his baritone was silky yet gritty, like a record that had been played a lot of times. "I don't have time for dancin'," he said. Each syllable was infused with the hunger of someone who had spent years pursuing a dream, and the songs began to flow out of their voice. While John was growing up in Macon, he maintained his musical career by singing in church choirs and dive bars. He also worked odd jobs, such as being a dishwasher or a delivery driver, in order to keep the music alive. He put his all into the performance, his voice soaring with a mixture of optimism and resistance. Tiana's hustle was his hustle, and he contributed it to the performance. That is going to have to be put on hold for a little while. The judges were paying close attention. Carrie Underwood leaned closer, her eyes fixed on John, and her golden hair caught the spotlights of the stage. As a showman who is known for his laid-back attitude, Luke Bryan bobbed his head to the music. Lionel Richie, a legend in the world of soul music, sat with a calm smile on his face, his eyes remaining steady and evaluating. John was able to catch their gazes and experienced a surge of exhilaration. This was not just for them. It was also for his mother, who had put in extra hours at work in order to pay his vocal lessons, and for his younger brother, who had texted him asking him to make us proud, Jay. As the beat of the song picked up, John allowed himself to become more relaxed, and his voice began to dance over the syncopated rhythm. He braced himself and said, "Ain't got time for messin' around," while his shoulders swayed and his smile was broad and sincere. As a result of his energy, the crowd responded by clapping in time, and some of them even stood up. The song was given a big band swagger by the Idol arrangement, which was toughened up with a vibrant brass section. John matched this swagger with his voice, which pierced through with power and precision. He walked around the stage with the natural ease of someone who was born to perform rather than with the calculated flair that might have been expected. As he sung, "I'm Almost There," the lyrics struck a deeper chord with him. Their remarks were not merely those of Tiana, rather, they were his. Every rehearsal that took place late at night, every audition that was unsuccessful, and every gig that compensated in tips and notoriety had all contributed to this point. He recalled the times when he had questioned his abilities and heard voices telling him that music was nothing more than a pipe dream. Nevertheless, here he was in the spotlight, so close to the life he had envisioned for himself. At the same time, the crowd felt it, and his voice became almost inaudible. The tone of his voice was light-hearted as he sang, "People down here think I'm crazy, but I don't care." It was a wink to every skeptic he had ever encountered, from the guidance counselors at his high school to his uncles who were dubious. While he was building back up to the peak, his voice was climbing, becoming more rich and primal. The crowd laughed, and then cheered even louder. In the end, the phrase "almost there" was a triumph, a declaration that caused the room to shake. Immediately after the final note was played, the audience erupted in a standing ovation that reverberated across the platform. His chest was heaving as he stood there, the lighting shining brightly on his face. As he looked at the judges, his heart was beating really fast. The first person to speak was Carrie Underwood, whose voice was warm and clear. It was her Oklahoma drawl that softened the sharpness of her words as she said, "John, that was incredible. You not only brought Tiana's narrative to life, but you also chose to make it your own. It is the combination of genuineness and heart that produces a star. Outstanding work." Luke Bryan wore a grin as he leaned into his microphone. He continued by saying, "Man, you had me from the very first note. To put it another way, that voice is as smooth as butter, but it also has this fire. You completely dominated this stage, and I can't wait to see what comes next." Lionel Richie, who was known for being a wise mentor, leaned forward, his eyes not just compassionate, but also penetrating. He told John, "You have a gift," and he was right. "It wasn't just singing, that was storytelling," she said. "You gave us the impression that you are very near to reaching your goal, and I feel that you are even closer than you realize." When the crowd yelled once more, John felt a lump form in the center of his throat. In spite of the fact that he was on the verge of bursting with emotion, he managed to control his voice and say, "Thank you." As he made his way off stage, the ovation followed him, a sound that he would hear for the rest of his life. All of the other contenders rushed over to him and gave him hugs and fist bumps behind the scenes. Leela, a singer with whom he had created a bond through late-night practice sessions, exclaimed, "You absolutely smashed it." With a grin on his face, John continued to be buzzing, but his thoughts were already in the direction of Hollywood Week. As the episode was being broadcast that evening, the audience's reactions lit up. The fans shared videos of John's performance on their social media accounts, with comments such as "John Foster just gave me chills," as well as "The voice of that man is pure soul. A strong competitor he is." While John was in his hotel room, he spent some time scrolling through the posts. He felt a mixture of pride and disbelief sweep over him. It was only the beginning of the voyage, and the path that lay ahead of him would be difficult: group rounds, solos, and cuts. But he was prepared for it. When it came to John, Almost There was more than simply a song, it was his truth. He, like Tiana, had put in countless hours of labor, dreaming of a stage that was larger than what his small town could accommodate. He had arrived at this point as a result of every sacrifice, every hard shift, and every note sung in rooms that were empty. "I'm almost there," he said to himself as he laid in bed, the glow of his phone beginning to go away. "I'm almost there." When he woke up the following day, he would continue to push on since almost wasn't enough. He was determined to achieve the dream, and he would not give up until he had achieved it.